by creating this notion, something that you didn't touch on, the G20 themselves were looking for some big bang solution like this by the November G20 meeting in France. That's at least given a 6-week window for them to try and figure out what's real, what's not, and how committed everybody is. So in some ways that's, in my judgment, the slightly clever part of all this, because to work all this stuff out is not easy.
Does it inspire confidence in someone like you?
It gives me a bit more hope that they're now recognising the size of the dilemma that they've got themselves into. For much of the past 12 months, what one repeatedly sees is denial of there being the kind of scale of challenge that the numbers you just talked about imply. But here we're talking big numbers, and one thing I'd slightly differ with a tone I heard from over the water there is it might well be that they can ring-fence Greece and don't need all of this money, but one of the attractions of such a policy, which works so well in the States, if you indicate you're prepared to put in X, you might need only a percentage of X. So,
sure.
Well, you know, one has to be always careful with the euro as to what you would like, as to what actually is reality and what may happen. You know, we have to remember a lot of these countries went into this thing for deep, complex reasons which involve a lot of European history and politics. So it's not just straight, simple economics. There's a lot of...
There was always as much a political project as an economic project.
I think it's worth starting from assuming it was a political project. Well, I also want to raise another thing. It's currently very fashionable to say that Germany's always so competitive. People are conveniently forgetting for the first 2 or 3 years of the euro's life, it was just as fashionable to argue that Germany would be very uncompetitive and could never regain it. And over the first decade, Spain created most of the employment in the euro area. So, of course, we're going through a dreadful crisis here, which certainly raises many doubts right at the core of how it was constructed. But as with any crisis, ones we've had in the US and in Asia, one of the keys is if policymakers learn from a crisis and you can build something better. We'll have to see how committed. Every major G20 member is sticking the nose in as well and saying this is of a potentially global dimension, so we're interested in it being a solution, or finding a solution, which is why I say the November G20 is now being put forth as the major point of delivery. So this is of major global importance. I think, again, with the G20 collective group name being brought to the fore, that the Chinese will have a role to play, or not necessarily just by buying a lot of European debt. In terms of broader monetary policy and China reducing interest rates, rather like what happened in the spring of '09, it is conceivable that a number of players can do their little bit for making the world a stronger place.